Where's Laura's car? My voice didn't sound like mine, too calm for the earthquake happening in my chest. The garage was empty, sunlight bouncing off bare concrete like a slap. Michael stood there smirking, and Samantha already had her phone pointed at me. The wind rattled the loose metal shutters, scraping November cold against the driveway. Nothing moved inside that garage. No reflection of cherry red paint, no scent of Laura's leather conditioner. Just absence. Michael didn't even flinch. "Dad, don't start." I stared at the bare concrete again. "Where is Laura's car?" Samantha let out a tiny gasp of excitement, the kind vloggers make when they know they're capturing drama. She angled her phone higher. Michael tilted his head, tone casual, rehearsed. "Your wife is dead. Mine's alive. Priorities, Dad." The world didn't go quiet. It got louder. A dog barking, a distant lawnmower, tires of a passing Prius slowing as the neighbors rubbernecked. But inside me, nothing. Just a single, sharp stillness. I swallowed. "You sold it." "Yeah," he said, almost cheerful. $310,000. The buyer wired it yesterday." He tapped his temple. "Smart financial decisions, Dad. You should try it sometime." Samantha laughed under her breath. "This is generational healing. People need to see how families break cycles." I turned toward the garage. The concrete echoed under my shoes like footsteps in a church. When I crouched, my knees clicked, age announcing itself. In the dust, two crescent-shaped outlines marked where the tires had rested for nearly 20 years. My fingertips traced the cold grit. Behind me, Michael exhaled dramatically. "You act like you're the only one who lost her." I stood without looking at him. "She trusted you. To build a future. To not drown in nostalgia. Samantha and I are starting a family. We need space. We need a house." Then louder, like he wanted the neighbors to hear it, or the camera. "We're doing something responsible instead of clinging to a relic in a garage." Eventually, I faced him. The sun hit the side of his face, sharpening every line of arrogance. "You think selling a car makes you a provider?" "It makes me a man," he shot back. Samantha's smile widened through her camera lens. "Let him be honest. This is raw. This is growth." Michael took a step closer, breath warm in the cold air. "You sit in that house alone. You're retired. You don't drive. You don't need the car. You don't need anything." I nodded, slow. "You're right. I don't need the car." He smirked, already victorious. I stepped back inside the garage doorway, taking in the empty space one more time. I could almost hear Laura humming off key to Fleetwood Mac while polishing the side mirrors. She joked that chrome never betrayed her. I blinked it away. "What I needed," I said, turning back to him, "was to believe that her memory meant something to you." His jaw tightened. Not guilt, just irritation. Samantha lowered her phone from her face by an inch, not enough to stop filming. I said, "You didn't just sell a car." My voice stayed level, controlled, even as my heart hammered. "You sold your mother's memory." The sentence hit, not loud, not dramatic, but deep, like a tremor behind the ribs. Michael's eyes shifted fast, calculating whether that line would hurt his reputation online. Samantha stopped smiling for the first time. I didn't wait for their reaction. I stepped past them calmly, not touching, not brushing, not giving them any moment of physical tension to feed off of. Dignity was the last thing they couldn't take unless I handed it over. As I reached the porch steps, I heard Samantha whisper, "Should I cut that part?" Michael muttered back, "Just save it. We'll decide later." The metal shutter slammed again, sharp like punctuation. The driveway, the wind, the stairs, the phone, the empty concrete. All of it closing in like a stage I never auditioned for. I didn't look back.
If I'm honest, that confrontation in the driveway didn't begin in the driveway. It began years before, quietly, gradually, like rust forming under perfect paint. Before everything soured, life was simple. Not glamorous, not extravagant, just steady. Our small suburban town outside Chicago wasn't the kind of place that made magazine covers. Maple trees, grocery stores where clerks remembered your name, driveways full of trucks and minivans. The kind of place where people built their lives instead of their image. And then there was Laura. Elegant without trying, warm without effort, sharp-witted in a way that could slice a man's arrogance right in half. She was an architect, not the glossy celebrity kind, the kind who cared about thoughtful spaces and light and how homes made people feel. I met her at a public lecture on mid-century design. She talked about buildings, I talked about engines. Somehow we both walked out believing we'd been speaking the same language. The Ferrari, the 1972 Dino 246 GTS, wasn't a trophy to her. It was a declaration that joy didn't need permission. She bought it 3 months before our wedding. I still remember her laugh when people called it a midlife crisis car. "If a man can have one," she'd say, tossing her hair over her shoulder as she climbed into the driver's seat, "why the hell can't a woman?" On weekends, we restored it together. Me with grease under my fingernails, her in denim overalls and sunglasses, humming along to Fleetwood Mac. Saturday mornings smelled like motor oil and fresh coffee. Sometimes she'd wipe sweat from my cheek with her thumb and say, "You're my engineer, Henry. Brains and heart, best combination I ever found." That car wasn't luxury. It was history. It was us. Our life never revolved around money. We skipped vacations when bills ran high, didn't buy fancy furniture, paid off the mortgage by year 18. The Ferrari lived in the garage, not as wealth, but as a memory we built together, bolt by bolt. Then there was Michael. Smart from the start, not in the effortless genius way, in the hard-working, determined way. He earned good grades, ran track, played trumpet badly but loudly. He used to run into the garage just to hand me tools I didn't actually need, just to be part of whatever we were working on. "Someday, I'm going to drive this," he'd say, patting the fender. "Someday," I'd answer. And for a long time, he meant it in the same way we meant it, something to look forward to, not something to own. But college changed him. Or maybe it just accelerated what was going to happen anyway. New friends, new priorities, new worlds where brand names were status and phones were mirrors. I remember the first time he said the words that would become his favorite metric. People notice. It wasn't malicious then, just the beginning of a shift. Samantha came after. She wasn't cruel at first, just ambitious, influencer ambitious. Every moment measured by the attention it could earn. When she and Michael got engaged, their proposal video got 27,000 views in 3 days. She cared more about that than the ring. At family dinners, she would slide her phone across her plate mid-conversation to edit footage of herself laughing. Once she asked Laura to laugh softer because it didn't fit the audio aesthetic of their vlog. Laura laughed louder on purpose. That was my wife. Then came the years of support, quietly given, never advertised. I funded Michael's last year of college when student loans buried him. Gave $64,000 toward their first house. Covered 3 months of bills during his unemployment when the startup he joined collapsed. I didn't make speeches about sacrifice. Fathers don't need applause. Laura used to squeeze my hand and whisper, "You did good today. You gave love without expecting praise." Life should have rewarded her for that kindness. Instead, it gave her cancer. Hospitals have a smell that never leaves, antiseptic and fear. I can still hear the beep of the monitors at 3 a.m., see the soft glow of the hallway light under our door when nurses checked her IV. She would take slow sips of chamomile tea from a thermos I refilled constantly because she couldn't stand the hospital coffee. Even when she lost her hair, her eyes stayed fierce. Michael visited when filming schedules allowed. Samantha didn't. "Hospitals are bad for my mental energy," she told Laura once. I remember gripping the back of a plastic chair so hard I nearly snapped it. Laura pretended not to mind. But that night, when the machines were quiet, she whispered, "Promise me something, Henry." I held her hand. "Anything. Protect memories, not money." Her voice was barely there, but her conviction was steel. People forget what things meant. They remember what they get from them. Don't let that happen to us. I nodded, because nodding was all I could do. After she passed, the world kept moving like nothing had changed. I kept breathing like everything had. Our house felt twice as big and half as alive. Every room had echoes. Every chair had absence. I kept the Ferrari polished, not as a shrine to grief, but as a way to keep her near. I didn't sit inside and cry. I didn't light candles or play sad music. I just kept it clean. Because when your hands stop working on something, your heart sometimes stops too. Michael drifted further. Calls became short, then infrequent, then strategic, only made when something was needed. When I said no once, gently, not angrily, he said, "Money doesn't mean anything to you, Dad, so why does it bother you to give it?" Somewhere along the road, my son learned subtraction, but forgot gratitude. And yet, even then, even in disappointment, I never imagined he would touch the Ferrari. Some things stay sacred if you grow up around sacred things. But grief changes people. And for some, it scrapes away empathy instead of revealing it. The worst truth, the one I don't say out loud often, is this. After Laura died, I became terrified of disappearing. I'd go full days without hearing my name. I'd pour 2 mugs of coffee by habit and dump the second one down the sink. I stayed busy, fixed broken lights that didn't need fixing, organized tools by size, polished chrome, anything to avoid becoming a ghost in my own house. The Ferrari wasn't just a car. It was a reason to stay visible, a reason to keep my hands moving, a reason to wake up on Saturdays. Michael never saw that. Maybe he didn't want to. Samantha definitely didn't. Nothing existed to her unless it was filmed. Grief doesn't go viral. Nostalgia doesn't trend. I ignored every warning sign because I couldn't bear to believe my only child might trade memory for money. But the day he sold Laura's car, he didn't just sell steel. He sold the last thing tethering her presence to mine. And he did it while looking me in the eye.
Disrespect doesn't arrive like a storm. It drips, slow enough that you start thinking the floor was always wet. It began with comments that sounded like jokes. One evening, they came for dinner. a Sunday tradition Laura used to love. I set the table the way she liked it. Wine glasses near the top right, candles lit, soft music from the old radio she adored. Samantha filmed the spread before saying hello. When we sat down, she swirled her wine and smiled with glossy charm. "This house is so cozy, very transitional." Michael chimed in, "Yeah, we'll modernize when it's ours." I paused mid-bite. "When it's yours?" Samantha laughed. "Oh, don't look so surprised, Henry. You're not immortal. We'll take great care of it." Michael nodded, fork in hand. "Better than letting everything sit around gathering dust." The wine tasted metallic suddenly. I set the glass down. "I'm still here." They laughed, like I'd said something adorable. Later that night, Michael asked to see the Ferrari. I unlocked the garage, flicked on the light. He stared at the car, but not in admiration, in calculation. 300,000 easy, he muttered. I didn't reply. Silence is sometimes the only shield left. That silence became my habit. The next time they visited, they didn't sit, didn't chat, didn't ask. They walked in like interior decorators with a mission. Samantha dropped her bag on the sofa. "Okay, Henry, we're helping you update. This layout screams 1990s sad bachelor." Michael was already unplugging the floor lamp Laura picked out on our 3rd anniversary. "We're trying to give the place some life." I stepped into the doorway, watching them shift furniture that had stayed in place for decades. "I didn't ask for anything to be changed." Samantha waved her hand dismissively. "Come on, be open-minded. Your generation gets so attached to objects." I took 2 slow breaths. "Those objects are memories." She didn't slow down. "Yeah, but memories don't sell houses." Michael clapped her on the shoulder. "He'll thank us later." I didn't thank them. I stood perfectly still, feeling something stretch inside me. Patience, dignity, restraint. Pulled like an elastic band that was never meant to go that far. The neighborhood barbecue came later. Warm evening, grill smoke, kids running across the lawn, country music floating through speakers. It used to be a peaceful tradition, until Samantha found an audience. She was mid-story, wine plastic cup in hand, speaking loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. "So Henry's got this old Ferrari he treats like a shrine. I mean, it's hilarious." A couple of neighbors chuckled politely. Samantha exaggerated a gasp. "It's like a boomer midlife crisis car, except he never had the crisis, so I guess he's saving it for retirement." More laughter. Michael laughed loudest, too loud, sharp and performative. Someone asked, "What model?" She shrugged. "It doesn't matter. It's old, like really old. We're gonna get rid of it soon." I turned away before anyone could see the hit land. The moment everything tilted happened the next week. I was in the kitchen, wiping down the counter. Samantha's voice drifted from the front porch. She didn't know I was home yet. "Once we sell the dinosaur car, we'll have enough to upgrade the Range Rover. Henry won't fight it. He's too soft." A beat of silence. Fabric rustled. She was adjusting her hair or shirt, maybe her phone. "Yeah, of course Michael is on board. He hates that car. It's like his dad chose the car instead of family when Laura died. We're the ones trying to move forward." Something inside me buckled, quietly, invisibly, the way metal bends beneath too much pressure. When she left, I found Michael in the backyard messing with the grill. "Can we talk?" I asked. He didn't look up. "About what?" "You think I love things more than people?" He stiffened. "So you were eavesdropping." "I live here. I overheard." He sighed dramatically. "Dad, you're obsessed with a dead woman's car. It's unhealthy." Don't call your mother a symbol, I said softly. She was a person. That car is a memory of her joy. He put the grill tongs down with a clang. There you go. That's the problem. You're living in the past. Mom wouldn't want you clinging to things while I'm trying to build a family. You're not building a family, I said. You're building a brand. His jaw twitched. You love that car more than your son. The sentence was meant to stab. It almost did. But instead of bleeding, something froze. I didn't argue. I didn't defend. I said, "You're wrong, but you're not ready to hear how." He scoffed and walked inside. He slammed the patio door. I didn't flinch. The last straw wasn't loud. It was a single moment, quiet and precise, like a blade sliding between ribs. I came home from my volunteer shift at the community center, Wednesday, 6:22 p.m., sky already darkening. Helping rebuild bicycles with teenagers had been the one place lately where I wasn't treated as fragile. I walked up the driveway, keys ready, and stopped. The garage door had a new padlock. I knew immediately. I didn't need to try the key. They had been here. They had touched the one boundary I had left. I heard a shudder of a camera in my head, not because Samantha was filming, but in that instant my memory took a picture. The maple leaves scattered on the driveway, the cold air burning my ears, the faint smell of someone's fireplace down the street, the padlock, shiny and smug. Everything inside me went still. I didn't shout. I didn't pound on the door. I didn't cry. I placed my palm lightly against the cold metal, like touching the hand of a patient about to slip away. A voice somewhere behind me called hello. I didn't turn. Inside my chest, something didn't break. It solidified. Patience had reached its limit. Dignity had reached its edge. Love had been mistaken for weakness for the last time. There was no dramatic vow, no movie line promise, just a quiet, final realization. Forgiveness without boundaries isn't love. It's surrender. And I was done surrendering.
I didn't react the way people expect. No shouting, no threats, no scene. I made tea. Chamomile, Laura's favorite. The steam curled in the quiet kitchen while the world rearranged itself around me. When trust breaks, noise is useless. Clarity is what matters. I began looking. Not frantically, methodically, like the mechanical engineer I used to be. I checked the mail first. Bills, a grocery coupon, a newsletter from the community center. Nothing. Then the trash. It was almost an afterthought. A half-open garbage bag by the back door. Cardboard edges stuck out. I knelt and pulled one piece free, then another. My fingers trembled only once on the third page. A dealership sales agreement. Header, Parker Motorsport Group, Chicago Division. Buyer, Evan Parker. Vehicle, 1972 Ferrari Dino 246 GTS. Amount, $798,000. Date, 2 days earlier. I whispered, 800,000? My knees nearly gave. The last appraisal had valued it around 300. Laura always said the market would rise. She was right. There was a signature at the bottom. It wasn't mine. But it was my name. My throat tightened. Michael, what did you do? More pages slid out of the trash. A copy of the transfer of title, the dealership receipt, a shipping form. I flattened them on the counter and stared.
My handwriting was never that messy. The forged signature slanted upward, like someone rushed. I called my bank, not in panic, not in anger. Calm. The representative asked for identification, then confirmed recent activity. Money wired. Deposit completed at 3:41 p.m. today, to the account ending in 2219. That's not my account, I answered. She hesitated. The record shows it is a joint account associated with a Michael H. Dixon and Samantha R. Dixon. The world narrowed. Not dark, sharp. I thanked her for the information, because politeness is armor. I printed the receipt she sent. Numbers don't lie. People do. Then I sat at the computer and searched my email. Every folder, including hidden ones. Nothing at first. But then I checked the spam filter. 23 messages. Subject line repeated over and over. RE, Vehicle Transfer Documentation Request. The sender, Linda Cooper, Parker Motorsport Group. I clicked the most recent message. It wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Michael Dixon, acting on behalf of owner. My jaw clenched. Every message included phrases like, "Please confirm the seller's consent. We still need Henry's signature. Reminder, legal owner must approve final paperwork." Then finally, the one that changed everything. An attachment labeled, "Note from Laura.pdf." My heart stalled before I could open it. I took a breath, a long, steady one, and clicked. It was her handwriting. Familiar curves, precise lines. "Henry, if you ever decide to sell it, may it be because your heart opened to the future, not because someone forced your past away. I love you, Laura." The date on the corner made my breath hitch. Written during her final hospital week. She must have slipped the note into the glove box for me to find someday. But it never reached me. The dealership had taken it during inspection. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the note on the glowing screen. Something shifted in me. Not grief, not rage. Moral clarity. Like someone wiped condensation off glass and everything finally came into focus. Dialogue broke the silence only because memory added sound. Laura's whisper echoed in my mind. "Protect memories, not money." I whispered back out loud. "I'm trying." I printed everything. The bill of sale, forged signature, bank confirmation, emails, timestamp logs. Paper after paper fed from the printer, stacking beside me like bricks in a foundation. Evidence doesn't comfort, but it steadies. My phone buzzed. A text. "Michael. Hey Dad, hope you're doing okay. Just checking in." My reply came slower than a heartbeat. "Me. I'm fine. We'll talk soon." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. He didn't respond again. I kept working. Not frantically, not obsessively, just precisely. I slipped each paper into a plastic binder sleeve, lined them in chronological order. Not for revenge, but for truth, for respect, for her. Halfway through organizing, I paused to breathe. Not to calm down, but to settle deeper into certainty. The car wasn't the matter anymore. Money wasn't the matter. Even betrayal wasn't the matter. This wasn't about a car, I said softly into the empty room. It was about whether my wife's memory still mattered. The words didn't tremble.
The clock ticked. The printer hummed. Outside, wind brushed the maple tree against the living room window. I listened to every sound, every ordinary, anchoring detail, and let the clarity root itself. People think justice begins with fury. They're wrong. Justice begins with stillness. The moment you stop reacting and start understanding. I placed the last document in the binder and closed it, the snap of plastic sounding like a gavel. No shouting, no panicking, no scene. Just truth. And truth, once assembled, is unstoppable.
The night of their housewarming looked like a commercial for everything Laura and I never cared about. Valet parking in a suburban driveway, fake ivy walls for photo backdrops, marble countertops glowing under cold LED lights, guests holding wine glasses like trophies, music loud enough to drown thought. I didn't enter dramatically. I didn't slam doors. I just walked in. People laughed, clinked glasses, complimented Samantha on the decor. Phones were everywhere, every angle captured, every smile rehearsed. I felt invisible in the middle of it all, and strangely, steady. Silence can be armor if you wear it right. Michael spotted me from across the kitchen and froze for a second before rearranging his face into a smile. "Dad, you made it," he called out, voice a little too bright. "Everyone, my father." Claps and nods followed. I nodded back, hands in my pockets. Samantha rushed over, phone in her grip like a natural extension of her hand. "You didn't bring anything?" she asked, with a sugary tilt of her head. "I brought myself," I said. "Oh," she murmured, frowning for half a beat before recovering and sweeping back into hostess mode. Michael tapped his glass with a fork. "Everyone, quick toast." A circle formed automatically. Music lowered, but didn't stop. He stood on a step beside the kitchen island, chest puffed out. "So," he began, arm wrapping around Samantha, "big year for us. New home, new chapter, and a big financial move that gave us the push to get here. Smart decisions pay off. That's the message." People nodded admiringly. "And hey," he grinned, "I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I might be the smartest guy in this room tonight." Laughter erupted. I stepped forward. "Before you finish," I said. "Not loud, steady." The room didn't go silent immediately, but conversations paused one by one, like falling dominoes. Michael's smile trembled. Dad, I'm in the middle of—" "I know. You're telling your success story. I'd like to hear the whole version." Samantha's eyes narrowed. "Henry, maybe we can talk later." "No," I answered. "Calm. Now is good." Guests shifted uncomfortably. Someone lowered the music further. The hum of the refrigerator filled the pause. Michael forced a laugh. Dad, what's going on?" I pulled a folder from inside my jacket, black, thin, discreet. I placed it gently on the marble island. "Your story leaves out dates," I said, "so I brought them." Michael swallowed. "What?" I opened the folder. June 15th, first inquiry to dealership. June 22nd, first forged signature attempt. June 28th, forged bill of sale completed. June 30th, $798,000 transferred to a joint account. Each document tapped the countertop softly as I laid them out. Whispers spread. Guests leaned in. Michael's face drained of color. "Dad, not here." Samantha stepped forward. "This is harassment. He's trying to humiliate us. He's obsessed with a car." "I'm discussing criminal fraud." I looked at her. Her mascaraed eyes widened. "You're manipulating him. You're trying to ruin his life. You're doing this because you hate me." "No," I said. "I'm doing this because you forged my name and stole my property." A voice from the crowd. "Wait, forged?" Heads turned, cameras discreetly lowered, the influencer glow dimmed by scrutiny. Michael stammered. "Dad, I thought you didn't care." "You never asked," I said. He rubbed his forehead. "Dad, come on, you don't need the money." "And you do, so you took it." The room tightened around him. Someone turned off the music entirely. Samantha slammed her glass down. "Stop saying took. We earned it. We deserve a future. People who hang on to dead things hold everyone back." Her voice cracked, not from guilt, but from exposure. Slowly, I reached into the folder and pulled out a USB recorder. "Evan Parker left a voicemail. I think you'd like to hear it." Michael's breath hitched. "Dad, no." I pressed play. "Mr. Dixon, this is Evan Parker of Parker Motorsport Group. We were honored to purchase your late wife's Ferrari. Please tell your son to never impersonate owners again. He is no longer permitted on our premises. Call me back at your convenience." No music, no laughs, no distractions. Michael grabbed the countertop for support. Samantha backed away, eyes darting around the room searching for sympathy, but there was none. "Dad, I thought you didn't care." "You never asked," I said. He sank onto a stool, covering his face like a child hiding from consequences. Samantha snapped, voice shrill. "So what? What do you want? Money back? Fine, we'll pay you back someday. You can't sue your own kids. You'll look insane online." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't change my expression. "I've already spoken to Barnes & Cooper Legal. Richard Barnes confirmed litigation and criminal charges are ready to file. Forgery, identity theft, grand larceny. All preventable if, and only if, the funds are returned in full within 72 hours. Gasps. Wine glasses paused midway to lips. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Michael looked up at me, eyes glassy, voice small. "Dad, please don't do this." I shook my head. "I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself." He reached for my arm. I just wanted us to have a future. And I wanted you to have values. We both didn't get what we wanted." Silence swallowed the room, the thick, suffocating kind. Guests shifted toward the door, pretending to check phones, not wanting to witness the collapse of an image they once admired. Michael whispered, "Dad, I'm sorry." He wasn't crying because he felt remorse. He was crying because he finally saw consequence. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. Pain isn't victory. I slid the folder toward him. "Read it carefully, and choose the future you want, not the one you're performing." Samantha burst. "You're destroying our lives. Who cares about some dead woman's car?" I turned to her, slow and steady. "She did, and I do, and maybe someday you'll care about someone enough to understand why." For once, she had no comeback. I stepped back, breath even, shoulders relaxed. Not triumphant, but simply resolved. No shouting, no rage,
just dignity reclaimed. The only sound then was the clinking of melting ice inside abandoned glasses and the clock ticking on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. 72 hours. Then I walked out of the house, and not a single person stopped me.
The aftermath didn't arrive with drama. It came through email. Subject line, confirmation of funds returned, case closed. Bank record attached. $798,000 wired back to Henry A. Dixon at 9:12 a.m. It wasn't an apology. It was compliance. But sometimes dignity comes not from what people feel, but from what they are forced to respect. Richard Barnes called later that afternoon. His voice was warm, steady. Funds restored, civil matter resolved, no criminal filing necessary unless you change your mind. I won't, I said. You're sparing him, he replied gently. I'm sparing myself, I corrected. Prosecuting my son won't bring Laura back. He was silent a moment before saying, You handled this with more restraint than most men could. Restraint wasn't a choice. It was the only thing I had left. The Ferrari returned 2 weeks later. A covered transport truck pulled up in front of the house. A man wearing Parker Motorsport overalls stepped out, clipboard in hand. Mr. Dixon, Evan wanted this delivered personally. I signed the receipt, though my hands shook just slightly. The driver pulled the tarp back, and there it was. Cherry red paint catching the October sun the same way it had the first day Laura drove it home. Time bent around me for a second. The driver cleared his throat. Evan said to tell you he's reducing the repurchase price. Said no man should have to pay full price to get his wife's memory back. I nodded once, swallowing. Tell him thank you. The car rolled back into the garage like it never left. But the space wasn't the same, and neither was I. Michael didn't disappear, though I think a part of him wanted to. He didn't knock, didn't call, didn't text. He just sat outside. The first time I noticed headlights paused at the curb around 10 p.m. I opened the blinds and saw his silhouette behind the steering wheel, staring at the house. I stepped onto the porch. He didn't get out. He rolled the window down a couple of inches. His voice cracked. I don't know what to say. I don't have to say anything, I replied. He nodded once, eyes glassy. Then he drove away. The second time was similar, and the third. Each visit a little closer, but he never crossed the property line. Grief has different shapes. Sometimes it looks like distance. Samantha didn't come with him. I heard through a neighbor they were taking time apart. Financial trouble followed quickly. Their brand deals slowed. The housewarming buzz faded. Sponsors backed away from bad publicity. I didn't gloat. I simply observed. Sometimes consequences don't need a push to keep rolling. Life settled back in slow layers. Not the old life. That one was gone. But a quiet, gentle new one. I started working on the Ferrari again, not to preserve the past, not to build a shrine, but because it was something Laura and I had loved together. My hands found familiar rhythms, wrench, rag, polish, music playing low in the background. Fleetwood Mac again, not painful this time, just honest. I talked to her sometimes, not because I expected an answer, because love doesn't end just because the paperwork does. One afternoon, the maple tree outside rustled in the wind, scattering leaves across the driveway. The garage smelled like leather conditioner and metal, same as always, but I didn't feel like I was trying to live in yesterday anymore. I was simply living. Richard Barnes stopped by one day to drop off the finalized case file. He looked around the garage, admiring the Ferrari. "She's beautiful," he said. "She was Laura's pride," I replied. He rested his hand on the hood gently, respectfully. "You know, most men, most fathers would have pushed that case as far as it could go. You didn't." I shrugged. "Justice isn't always punishment." "Maybe not," he said, "but boundaries are." I tightened a bolt on the engine. I was late setting them, but I set them. He smiled like he understood. "You did." He left the file on the workbench. I didn't open it that day. A week later, I found Michael's car outside again. This time I walked down the driveway. He rolled the window down and stared forward. "I miss her," he whispered. "I know," I answered. "I didn't know how to deal with losing her." "I know." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I thought if I could build a future fast enough, I wouldn't have to feel the past." "That's not building, that's running." He nodded, almost collapsing inward. "I want to fix things, Dad, but I don't know how." "You start by wanting to. Not by earning money, not by impressing people, not by pretending everything's fine." Silence again, but not the angry kind, the scared kind. He turned toward me finally. "Can I come inside?" Not an apology, not an excuse, a beginning. "Yes," I said, "you can." And that was enough for that night. We didn't talk about Laura. We didn't talk about the car. We watched a game on TV without really paying attention. The air wasn't comfortable, not yet, but it was honest. That's how healing starts. The Ferrari wasn't fully restored yet. I didn't rush it. Memory isn't a race. One part each weekend, one task at a time, one quiet step back toward tomorrow. Sometimes, while tightening a bolt or polishing chrome, I'd glance toward the driveway and catch sight of Michael's car parked there. Not every day, not predictably, but more and more as weeks passed. Life doesn't snap back into place after being broken. It reassembles, piece by piece, if you let it. And in that garage, with my hand steady on the metal Laura once loved, and the future waiting quietly outside, I finally understood the promise she made me keep. Protect memories, not money. Memory isn't a prison, it's a foundation, and I'm building again.
9 months passed, and the house didn't feel like a memorial anymore. Life didn't return to the way it was. It grew into something new. I started working part-time at the community automotive workshop, just 2 afternoons a week, teaching teenagers how to restore old engines, sand down fenders, replace belts and hoses. We worked with whatever cars people donated, rusty pickups, forgotten sedans, the occasional classic. Some of the kids came from quiet homes like mine. Some came because they needed somewhere to be other than home. I showed them everything Laura once showed me, how care is a skill, how patience is a form of love, how a machine only lasts when people treat it with respect. They didn't know who she was, and I didn't need them to. Her passion continued in every bolt they tightened and every engine they learned to trust. On some evenings, when my shift ended, I'd pull into the driveway and see a familiar car idling near the curb. Michael. He never texted, never called. He just sat there, not expecting an invitation, simply present. I'd lift the garage door to take out the trash or put away a tool, and sometimes he lingered a few feet closer, hands in pockets, head down. He didn't ask to come inside, and I didn't ask him to leave. Healing has its own pace, and this was ours.
The first thing I noticed those evenings wasn't guilt, it was humility. He looked thinner, quieter, like someone who had stopped performing. I could almost see the edges of the boy he used to be, the one who handed me tools I didn't need just to be part of the moment. He never said anything on those nights. Neither did I. Sometimes silence is the most honest language two people can use. Samantha was gone. I learned that not from Michael, but from the absence of her presence. No loud phone calls, no sharp perfume, no camera flash. Just Michael, sitting in his car, staring at the house he once assumed would be his someday. Life has ways of correcting arrogance that no courtroom ever could. Every Sunday morning, when the weather allowed, I drove the Ferrari. Not to escape grief, not to punish memory, not to show off, just to live. Sunlight slid across the windshield like warm silk. The engine rumbled with a quiet confidence, not loud, not aggressive, just sure of itself. I'd take the coastal road out of town, past the maple groves, let the wind move through the cabin. Sometimes I talked to Laura, sometimes I didn't. Either way, the world felt bigger than loss. I learned something out there on those roads, something the last year carved into me. Love doesn't disappear when people do, but it changes shape, and you have to let it. One Sunday, when I pulled back into the driveway, I saw Michael again. This time, he didn't sit in his car. He stood by the mailbox, waiting. The garage door was open, and he watched. Not the car, not the house, but me. He didn't speak until I stepped out. "Dad?" he said softly. "Just that." I nodded. "You hungry?" He hesitated, then nodded once. We went inside and made sandwiches. No dramatic apology, no speeches, just two people trying again. Awkward, fragile, real. Healing isn't cinematic. It's repetitive. It's quiet. It's choosing not to run one day at a time. That night, after he left, I sat in the garage with the engine cooling beside me. Tick, tick, tick. I thought about everything I'd lost, everything I almost lost, and everything I'd begun to rebuild. For a long time, I believed justice meant punishment, that pain returned to the one who caused it was the only way balance could exist again. But I was wrong. Justice isn't always about hurting someone back. Sometimes it's helping someone see who they became and deciding to stop letting them treat you like less than you are. Boundaries, not revenge, saved what was left of my family. I looked at the Ferrari, polished, not worshipped, and I finally understood the promise I kept. I didn't protect money. I protected memory. Not to freeze the past, but to build a future that still had dignity in it.